All right, guys, this is our official Masters of the Universe 2026 live action movie for people who like live action movies review.
Yep.
For people who like reviews. So we're going to talk about the Masters of the Universe movie. We just saw it a couple hours ago. We've got a pretty fresh impression of it. We're going to give you a spoiler-free overview before we get into the spoilers. And yeah, so you'll have a little bit of warning. And just before we get into that, though, it's not looking too good financially.
No matter how good you like it or how much you like it or how good you think it is, it's just not. And
that is unfortunate because actually it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
It was. I mean, people are going to get mad as how dare you like it. That's not saying it's not without problems, but
no,
it does have some problems. But overall, I thought it was fun. The kids thought it was fun. I mean, honestly, you'd be more critical of it than me and they would be.
Yeah, I have some nitpicks with it as a Masters fan, but overall it was a lot of fun. It really felt like a throwback to a different era of movie making when we just made movies for fun. And you know, if you're going into this expecting something deep from Masters of the Universe, which is never a very deep franchise, as much as I love it, you know, you might be a little disappointed. But if you're just looking for a good time, a lot of action, a lot of color, and a lot of 80s music.
Brown.
It wasn't brown. Like, it's amazing. In the last year or two, we've seen more and more movies being more colorful. Like, that used to be something that they strived for, right? They wanted color in movies, and they wanted the movies to look good, and everything went through this phase where it was, I don't know if it was a color grading or what, but everything was like blue, and then we're in the brown green stuff. And it all looked like bad 70s photography, which I guess is a stylistic choice, but like they were applying it to action movies too. Now this thing's just like colorful as hell, and it's expensive as hell too.
Well,
you
the
can tell.
toys were colorful too. You know, I mean, let's be honest.
I would have been disappointed if it was a very drab movie. Let's
it was colorful, and the fight scenes are really well done. And there's plenty of those. And it's like the scenes you would think in your head when you were kids playing out the toys and stuff. That's kind of what you got here, but it was a lot more violent than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it had a pretty high
body count.
There is a body count in this one, which I was surprised because usually, at least in the Filmation cartoon, nobody actually died. It's just like kind of like G.I. Joe, and that's why Transformers the movie was so shocking when it came out, because nobody died hardly on the cartoon, and then the movie came out. They're like, yeah, let's just kill the entire cast of the first 2 seasons off in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
But this one, you could tell, was geared at adult fans.
Yeah.
It was definitely, there were kids there. There were kids at the theater, younger people at the theater.
I was surprised. Yeah,
but it's definitely geared at like the fans of the show that grew up with it, I think, and that are now adults.
So let's talk a little bit more about it before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
If you'd like more Clownfish TV, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV, just like we said. And also, if you'd like to listen to the audio version of Clownfish TV, our podcasts are out on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. So check us out over there. And yeah, let's talk first about the box office projection, then we'll get into our spoiler-free overview. It's not looking great. It's actually looking worse than they thought it was going to be.
Oh, is it?
Well, there's more competition. I forgot the Digital Circus movie.
Yeah, people mentioned it in the comments on other videos. Yeah.
And there were a lot of people at the theater we went to. There were people, even though it was the afternoon, there were a lot of people that were there for that. They had the plushies with them and the shirts and all the merch and all that. So that might cut into it. They're saying that one's going to do like 20 million this weekend too. And then we've got 3 horror movies. We got 2 holdovers from last week, which did very well. And then we have Scary Movie, which is supposed to be overperforming, I guess, this weekend. So we have that. So it's got a lot kind of working against it. It was a very, very bad time to bring this movie out. I feel like this one probably should have come out in like a March or an April and not June.
Yeah, I think it was a really not good time to come out. I do agree.
And so, yeah, they're saying it's probably going to do 30-ish million this weekend, maybe 31. They were hoping for 35. Ooh. Originally, they said it was going to do 50. You see how this works?
See, it's a bummer, though, because it actually is like a fun movie. I can see people who don't even really know He-Man, the Masters of the Universe story, like going to this movie, you're able to follow it. Like, you don't have to be a He-Man fan to get the movie.
No, our kids, neither one of them are huge Masters fans. I mean, they know the basics because we talk about He-Man, but they both enjoyed it. They liked it.
Well, they watched it when they were kids. Like, they grew up on She-Ra and He-Man and Gem and those kind of things.
I think they forgot a lot about it, though. But no, they had a good time. They were definitely having a good time watching this one. So, I mean, it definitely has... I mean, they succeeded in making a movie that actually, I think, has broad appeal, that is accessible for people who are not familiar with the franchise, because they do kind of spoon feed you the whole thing. But it's not, I don't think it's, I mean, it's done in kind of a comedic way, but it's like, they're not just like dropping you into it, expecting you to know everything about this universe. They're like, here are the rules, here are the people, here's how it works, here's what's going on.
But it's done in a way it's not boring if you already know it. So
yeah.
It was done in an interesting way. And Jared Leto did not suck.
No, he was actually good.
You never see his face.
You never see his face. I was worried. He
actually pulled it off. He pulled it off pretty well.
It is not cartoon Skeletor. He is Skeletor. It's not cartoon Skeletor, but it's kind of a mishmash of, I'd say, different versions of Skeletor. But the voice isn't cartoon Skeletor. The attitude definitely is. I think he did a really good job, though.
He did do a really good job.
I think he's a lot more... Yeah, he's a lot more menacing than cartoon Skeletor. I would say he reminds me more of 2000X Skeletor, where he's got the sense of humor, but, you know, he's actually going to mess you up. Skeletor in the original Filmation series he was a pain in the ass, but he wasn't going to kill anybody.
Well, I did like this, too, in the fact that, you know, he's just bad because he wants to be bad, not because he's got some inner conflict or whatever. He's just bad because he wants to be bad, which is fine. And finally, can we just have villains that are just villains because they want to be a damn villain, not because they have some sad backstory? It's because you're not some misunderstood villain. They're just like, I'm just a badass villain because I like it, and it makes me happy.
He does have a tragic backstory, but I don't think they're going there in this one. I don't think they're going to use the whole Keldor thing. It feels to me like they're not doing the Keldor thing in this one, but no, I think everybody is pretty good. I had concerns about, I thought it was Galitzine, I guess is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He is awfully young for He-Man. He makes a good Adam. I guess I kind of wanted a beefier He-Man, you know. I wanted, like, I thought maybe they're going to
someone who could come across for both characters and you know, act and stuff like that too. I'm sure there's people out there that could do it, but I don't. And it looks the part. I don't know. I think he did okay. They get this is a mild spoiler, but what's going on does make an appearance in the movie. Yeah, I love that. That was great.
We got to put that in the movie. I'd be very concerned if that were not in the movie.
Even when he did it, was funny because he's like, "What's going on?" It was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. They don't spend a lot of time on Earth, which, thank God. I was really worried about that. I'm like, oh my God, because, you know, it's like, oh, it's going to take place on Earth. It's going to be, you know, 2 hours of him pissing around on Earth and Earth adventures, and then they'll go to Eternia because it costs too much. No, they're on Earth for maybe 20 minutes, and most of the movie is on Eternia, and it looks expensive as hell. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't...
Well, that's probably where most of the budget went, yes.
Yeah, they did not cheap out. I mean, I was worried about that too. I'm like, oh, they're going to cheap out. And I'm like, nope. You watch this movie, you're like, yeah, as Eternia. Yep, all the goofiness, the whole, like, the tech, No, this movie was expensive, and that's why it only making $30 million this weekend is not good.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very expensive. But I guess we can kind of get into it a little bit more. The critics...
First of all, you're going to talk about... You're not going to get the spoilers yet. Okay, go ahead. I thought you were...
No, I wasn't going to get into spoilers yet. I would say just off the top of my head, I personally... I think you would give it a higher score. I would say... I'd be comfortable with like a 7.5.
I'd say 8 at least. For me, an 8.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, and I want to be very clear. Like, I have some nitpicks with it, but if you're
there are some things they could have done better for 100%.
Yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but it is a hell of a lot of fun. If you are a He-Man fan, yeah, you're going to have some grievances with some of the choices.
And some of the things people were saying that they're mad about, I understand why 100%. They say that. Like, I don't think they have no point. Like, I'm not, because again, like, if you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, I get it. I'm not going to piss on you for not liking it because I understand why you don't like it, because I can see where you're coming from.
I know Tom from Midnight's Edge is a huge He-Man fan. He did not like it. I didn't watch his review because I didn't want too many spoilers, but the gist was that they did mess with the lore, and they do mess with the lore.
Mm-hmm. But every iteration seems to. Even 2000s changed from the, the cartoon was changed from the comic, and then 2000 show was changed from the cartoon, and then you have the Kevin Smith stuff, and it changed stuff too. So every iteration changes. Like, what is the lore at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean the core lore is definitely there. There's some nitpicks about it, but yeah, I'd feel comfortable.
And the character names, that's one of my nitpicks, but we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that
in the spoiler review.
I would say before getting into the spoilers, you got our score. I would say the biggest drawback, or the biggest problem, I would say, with the movie, and this isn't really a spoiler, is there's a lot of goofy ass humor in it that it's attempting to be a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, but it gets to a place where I'm kind of like, they're not really taking anything seriously.
Yeah, and there's
no stakes when you don't take anything seriously.
And it was like, even our son was like, when they did this stuff, it takes you out of it. And there's one scene in particular, I was like, why would you even do that? That was a dumbass move. But yeah, some of the things are, like you said, like 20% less like humor, and it would have probably been a lot better. And I agree with that. I think they overwent too much on the making fun of He-Man and making fun of itself. I think they went a little too heavy into that.
Yeah, that's when we get into spoilers. I'll talk more about that. But it did at times feel like it was a Saturday Night Live parody of He-Man and not an actual He-Man movie. I was like, this is like an SNL skit in some places, right? Like
in some places, but overall, I still liked it. I'd watch it again. No. I'd watch it again and again. Actually, I liked it.
Yeah, this is one of those movies. I can honestly say I kind of feel about this one the same way I feel about the Speed Racer movie, which is it's just dumb fun. Like it knows the assignment, it knows what it is, it knows what it's based on, and they just have a lot of fun with it. And it's one of those movies you can just run in the background. And
again, what does it in is that it goes overboard on the poking fun at itself sometimes.
Yeah. Speed Racer actually took itself. I mean, it knew what it was, but it takes itself pretty seriously, even though there's some pretty ridiculous stuff in it. But still, within the rules of the world, it's like, no, we're serious about these races. We're serious about these cars. And yeah, his name's Speed and he races cars, but whatever. We're totally serious. Yeah, he's got a pet chimp, but whatever. We're totally serious about it. This one's like nonstop kind of poking fun at the franchise, which I think is going to piss some people off.
I think it is. And it works sometimes, but they definitely take it too far in some places. And I was like, no, see, that, and the fact that they're saying it's family, and like our son said, there's an awful lot of neck stabbing. And
for a family movie, yeah. So let's get into the spoilers, because we're kind of running out of things we can say about without ripping that Band-Aid off. So you have been warned. We are going to get in spoiler territory now. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's talk spoilers.
Okay. What did you want to talk about first?
Well, I guess we could talk about the overall plot first. And okay. I can tell you, if you've watched the trailer, you've seen the whole plot of the movie.
Like pretty much.
I mean, Adam is, now I thought they would play this up a little bit more, but yeah, he's Prince from Eternia. Obviously, as a kid, Skeletor attacks, takes his mom and dad, Randor and Marlena. Marlena goes to the Sorceress, has Adam as a child sent to Earth, where she is from. And if you've watched the cartoon, you'll know they explain the whole thing. She was an astronaut and all that. And he gets sucked into a rainbow portal, like the Rainbow Bridge, with the sword. And he loses the sword. He winds up in, Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
I think is where he winds up. And then he lives a relatively mundane life. They don't explain like if he has Earth parents or his foster.
Yeah, they never explain that. It's just him as an adult, and he has a roommate that watches The Notebook and cries a lot. Actually, the Earth part, it's funny to me, is they played up the Eternia parts as being like, you have to be strong, you have to be a man, you have to be those things. But when he gets to Earth, it's like they play up the whole the woke angle, like extremely, like not that he is. He seems to be rolling his eyes at it too, but like different, like his roommate watches A Notebook and cries, because men are allowed to like watch romance movies and cry, and his boss is like, consent, and I'm gonna say this, I have to put my boss hat on, and it was like, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like the boss character.
She was funny.
She was funny, but she was basically like every 2017 era DEI mandate.
I think that was the joke.
That was the joke. So
it's a joke. Like, if Attorney is super far manly, Earth is going too far the other way, and you have to find some happy middle.
And I think that is the point of it.
That is the point, I think.
Earth is full of pussies. Eternity is full of manly men, and you gotta find a way to be a pussy and a dick at the same time.
Yeah, because that's when it's glorious.
That's
peak.
That's peak. But yeah, so yeah, Earth is weak, obviously, and but he's obsessed with finding the sword, which, I mean, they kind of jump into that, like, okay, he's got a job, whatever. Like, what happened to him in those? He was gone for like 15 years. It doesn't really matter. Basically, he's obsessed with finding his sword. They don't really delve into whether or not, people are like, do you have psychological problems? Is he imagining?
Well, they say he has therapy, and the therapist told him that he's just imagining all this stuff because he had traumatic. His parents died tragically, and he's making up stuff. You don't see the therapist. The roommate talks about it,
and that might be a cutscene or something. But it is kind of weird that we just kind of go from like, okay, he's on Earth, he's got a job, he's obsessed about this sword, and he finds it pretty damn quick.
Well, the implications he's been looking for 15 years.
Yeah, but in the span of the movie, he finds it like it's barely an inconvenience.
Thank God, because would you want him to spend much more time on it? They say he's been searching for it the whole time. He finally gets someone who tells him where it is.
Yeah, so it's in a comic shop.
Which our son thought the guy was going to be Orko or something, because he's like, this guy just like happens to get hold of him, happens to tell him where it was. And everything else, but they didn't do that. He thought it was going to be Orko, but it wasn't. But that was the same one you saw in the trailer. Now, I want to point out that when he's on Eternia, they made sure he was like the runt, kind of like he was very small. Yeah. And that was the joke, was like Tila was a lot taller than him, and that he was, to be fair, girls usually get taller earlier than boys. And I want to say people are mad about that, though. I think the whole point of that was the fact that his transformation one is more deliberate and more exciting. But I also think because we were all like, when kids were little, the whole point behind like the figures, one of the things that they did was, you have the power, that was the commercial, now I have the power and stuff. And it was basically anybody, any kid, no matter what their size, could be strong and powerful and could be like He-Man, because we all have the power. We all could be like He-Man. And I think that's kind of part of the reason I went with like kid that was like, he was supposed to be tiny and stuff, was, I think it's a kind of throwback to the toys. And when we were kids, like they did that on purpose, so kids would feel like, no, I have the power.
I also want to point out that in many iterations of Masters of the Universe, this is the way it is, especially 2002, where Adam is scrawny.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be older, though. He was like a teen. He wasn't like a little kid.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that was, I mean, the whole thing, if people are like, oh, well, Teela is the boss bitch or whatever, I'm like, have you ever seen any incarnation of Masters? Because she is the boss bitch. She's Man-at-Arms' daughter.
Boss bitch out of her in this one.
No. She wasn't bossy, but she knew her stuff. No, but she knew her stuff.
Right.
For sure.
She's been on Attorney all this time, and she trained under her dad, and then she had to take care of her dad, which is a whole other story.
Yeah.
So I think, but even then, like, she was telling him what to do when she got him because she's trying to save him and get him out of there. But after that, like, he was kind of going to do what he was going to do, and you can come along or you can't. And it wasn't like all about her. She kind of stood behind the one person was complaining. She kind of stood there while he did all the fighting, and it's like, yeah, she did, because it was his battle, and she was respecting that it was his battle. I thought that it was good that it wasn't the Teela show, but she also held her own, and it was fine.
Yeah. So if you're worried that this is going to be a bait and switch like Kevin Smith's, no, this is 100%. Adam's movie, He-Man's movie. Very few scenes without him. Actually, I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm watching this, I'm like, this is more a He-Man movie than Superman was a Superman movie, because Superman was sidelined for a lot of the movie. They had to go rescue Superman, and they made it, not more of an ensemble thing, which is fine, but it was called Superman. And this one, it was like, it was definitely He-Man and friends, but mostly He-Man. Mm-hmm. So there is no bait and switch in it. Idris Elba, I think, is fantastic as Man-at-Arms when he's actually Man-at-Arms, not drunk off his ass.
Yeah, the character. Because basically, because we're in spoiler territory, he gets his ass kicked by Trapjaw, and that's what gets, everybody captured. Because, well, it's part of the reason. It wasn't all his fault. And then after that, apparently, he takes on a life of drinking and peeing on himself and puking on himself and all this other stuff, which is,
yeah. So
that's in a dungeon because he can. So
that's what happened. Basically, the remaining Eternians, the Masters, went into hiding after Skeletor took over. So Adam's on Earth looking for the sword.
They're trying to find him and the sword.
And then once he gets the sword, it apparently sends a beacon, and then Beastman shows up. Adam's in traffic, and Beastman shows up, and that's when they start playing What's Going On, and here comes Beastman, just like and that's the scene you see in the trailer where Beastman's like on the cars and ripping the doors off and stuff looking for Adam, and they're playing What's Going On during the whole scene, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, and then he turns around and he goes, "What's going on?" It was funny. Yeah. It was funny. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And then Tila gets him out of there, but they're after him because they want the sword, obviously, and then because they're following him and they're following Tila. They find them at the base and they attack the base. Everybody's hiding, but they do make a point of saying this is where the naming thing comes in. He's been drawing pictures of them since he was a kid, and so he didn't know their actual names except for like Duncan and Tila. So he was like drawing pictures and then giving them names, like Ram Man and Fisto and stuff like that. And that wasn't supposed to be their names, but where it always in the past has always been their name. He was basically like, as a child, he was naming the characters, which is part of the like, who would name these characters that, And I'm like, okay, but I didn't like the fact they played it off as a joke or that. He was calling them that, and that wasn't their. I didn't like because they never tell you what the real names are supposed to be either.
It's basically like in some ways, and I think the critics have a very, very valid point. Is the movie is both reverential to Masters of the Universe, but more often than not, it's embarrassed by what it is and embarrassed by the franchise itself. And Travis Knight, I mean, I think he's a good director. I think he's a great director. He did Bumblebee, which I thought was the only watchable Transformers movie, live action movie. But even then, he was like, well, we can't call him Bumblebee, so he's got to be B, whatever. It was a short, it was B, and then it became Bumblebee. So we have to come up with a way to come up, justify the stupid toy names, I guess, which means you're embarrassed of.
Well, that's just it, and that's what they did here too. And I didn't like that. Like, that was stupid. Because you never told us what the real names are supposed to be, but you just, you're making fun of him. And they do that with the He-Man name later, too. And that, I thought that was taking a little bit too far in regard to that. And Roboto is a maid, but they didn't play it up like the one person that Mary Sue was complaining about. I think it was Mary Sue. Like, it wasn't like, he was his friend Tila and his friend Roboto and how he doesn't want her to be a maid. No, he just like, hey, you're a battle bot. Why don't you come with us and fight? It wasn't like, oh my gosh, how dare they make you queen, vacuum up, mop up. That wasn't like what happened. It was
basically the robot was too dangerous to be allowed to be a battle robot. So Duncan took its nuts, took its little nut out. Took She-They's.
I don't understand why they made Roboto.
I don't know, because they thought it'd be funny. I mean, actually, it'd be kind of fun. Look, if you want to be really progressive, when Roboto goes into battle mode, Roboto could become a male. And
so that would be very on par for Eternia, because Eternia is where all toxic masculinity lives. No, but it wasn't played up that much. It was just that they made sure, like, Man at Arms was always like, because in his mind, to be strong means you protect everyone, which he does bring up a point later, and I thought that was a good point, which was it's okay to fight when you need to, because if you have something to protect, if you have family to protect, if you have people to protect, you can men stand up. And those are the ones that are soldiers, the ones that fight are the ones they're the ones that stand up. And I thought that was a very fair statement to make. And then I think it was almost like reverse Barbie, and the fact that when Ken went to our world, he learned about toxic masculinity and brought it back to Barbie land. And in this one, it was, Adam grew up on Earth and he got all these. Now, he even rolled his eyes about how ridiculous it was. But he took some of those lessons back about, you don't always have to fight. That's last resort and that kind of stuff back with him. And then he was kind of spreading, the idea
pronouns, his progressivism all over Eternia.
He thought it was stupid too, but he was spreading like that whole let's talk it out, which it didn't work for him. He was going to use that whole let's talk it out, and it didn't work. But he was trying to find ways around, just using strength and using his power if he didn't have to. And I think that's good, because the original cartoon was like that too. If you avoid a fight if you can.
He-Man.
And telling people to go beat the shit out of your friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's pretty much every incarnation of He-Man, is that he's very much like Superman. The fact that he will give the villains more chances than they deserve, because he's hoping maybe they'll come around to it, but he will use violence as a last resort but
he has no qualms doing it if he has to.
Yeah, if he has to do it,
that's the only way to resolve it, to save others. That's what he'll do. And I thought, so I don't think it's like the what is masculinity? I don't think that's really what it was. It was just that showing there's multiple facets to being, a different facets of being a man. And I think that's fair. Just like there's all kinds of facets of being a woman. Of course, there's multiple, it's like onions have layers. You know what I mean? Of course, there are different facets and layers to being a man. No man is just, one dimensional and flat. And if you try to say so, then your name is something dumb and you probably work for the Mary Sue.
Yeah, it sounds, I don't know, I'd say it sounds worse than it actually is, but there were some places in here that was just like the humor was really look, I get they were going for the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but I'm like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies look like a somber police drama compared to some of the parts of this movie.
It was. I mean, they overdid. Like, there's a scene that you saw in the trailer where they're all walking through the smoke and they're walking, and there's a reason they broke out. They're walking through it, and they play like Queen music. Matt. Oh
yeah, that was awesome.
It was great. And then they all start coughing because the smoke's getting to them.
Yeah,
there was no reason to. You cut that out of the movie, and it would have automatically been at least 5% better. Like, that was stupid. Like, why the flip did you do that? That was pointless, other than to make fun of it and put some humor in there where you didn't need any.
You didn't need any, because honestly, the first 15 minutes of the movie, 20 minutes of the movie, before he goes to Earth, is just absolutely kick ass.
Yeah,
and I'm like, just do that again. Like, they kind of sort of do at the end, but I'm also like, but they cough when they break out of jail. Come on.
I mean, that was stupid. It was dumb. They could have taken that out. Like, they overwent on some of the stuff, and then. In this movie, it was like you have very serious parts. Like, Skeletor isn't like, he makes jokes about you boob and stuff like that. But he's way more threatening than he is in the cartoon.
Yeah, he kills Moss Man. He turns him into mulch and makes a joke about it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of pointless. But, I'm just saying, like, he's a bigger threat. So throwing them coming out there coughing and stuff was pointless and stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you can have some jokes in there and some jokes land, but then there's other ones like that was dumb. Like, you could have taken some of that humor out and the movie would have been infinitely better for it. Yeah,
no, I think that there's a time and place for that, but it was like every other line. It was just like, really kind of a wink and a nod. And I get some of the stuff, it's like a wink and a nod toward the audience and the He-Man fans and all that. But it gets to a place where when it's nonstop jokes, I'm kind of like, am I watching an action movie or am I watching like a Zucker Brothers comedy, or like I said, an SNL parody of He-Man?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, again, the beginning of it was fantastic. The Earth stuff was tolerable because it wasn't as long, drawn out as I thought. But when they started getting down to business, I expected them to get down to business a little more and not constantly be cracking jokes.
Yeah, and it got to a point that was dumb. And then you get to the end, and basically, I thought that was pretty well done. They combined both the Earth and Eternia for Adam, like both his lives into one, which I thought was kind of interesting, because the sorceress is like trying to revive him. And then he gets, Skeletor breaks the power sword and then uses what's left over to stab him. And then you think he's dead, but he's not dead because he has the power in him. He's the vessel. Nothing surprising there. And then they pretty much chop off Skeletor's head, which was also funny. But then they got to the very end, and you get to the very, very end, and they're in their costumes, like they are. And Tila's in her outfit. They're all in their outfits that you recognize. And then, they start talking about him drawing what they call people, and they're making fun of him. What'd you call yourself? He-Man. And they're like laughing about him calling himself He-Man. I was 10.
Yeah.
And I'm like, see, that was the one thing you shouldn't have done. Like, this movie's still really good. I'm not going to say it isn't.
Yeah.
But if they had just not done a couple things, the people I think would have complaints might not have as many complaints, because their complaints are not unfounded.
No, I think that, and again, I mean, it sounds like we're hating on this movie. I want to be clear.
And it really isn't.
It's bad. An enjoyable movie. I mean, the music kicks ass. The visuals kick ass.
He-Man kicks ass.
He-Man kicks ass. When Duncan's not drunk, he kicks all kinds of ass. And
he pulled his club out and everything. I was like, oh, he's got all the weapons.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and there are a lot of Easter eggs.
Trapjaw is done really well.
Trapjaw, yeah. So I love that the Trapjaw we got was more or less the 2000X Trapjaw, where he actually was a badass and not just some doofy, just grunt for Skeletor. The villains, it was very weird. Some of the choices that they had Karg from the '87 movie in it, and they had Goat Man. They had freaking Goat Man who was in like a book or two. Like he was just a like people are like, what the hell is Goat Man? But he gets more screen time than like Spike-Ore. I was like, what are you doing? Triclops is barely there. I would think he would have a bigger role. My biggest complaint with the villains, I'm going to tell you though, as much as I like Alison Brie, she is not a good Evil Lynn.
No, she really wasn't. I'm sorry.
She's got nothing on 87 Evil Lynn. Sorry. No. Evil Lynn was always kind of the brains behind Skeletor's throne. Like she was devious in her own right. She just wasn't. I think the problem with Alison Brie is she's not menacing enough to be Evil Lynn. Like Evil Lynn is a conniving bitch, right? And
she seemed more like she was like his little dad, or his like his little slave or minion or something, more than she was like Evil Lynn.
Yeah, because Evil Lynn, if she wanted to, she could take Skeletor out herself. You know, she's tried to double cross him a couple times, different stories. She needed to be a lot more menacing, and it's no shade at toward Alison Brie. I know she was like super excited for the role, and she's talking about how like all her guy friends were calling her and being like, "Oh my God, you're gonna be Evil Lynn. That's awesome." She's just not evil enough. Like you need like somebody really freaking sinister, I think, for Evil Lynn. And she's too like girl next door.
She's too dang cute. No, she's just like,
she's too nice. You're too nice. You're not evil enough to be Evil Lynn. Sorry. To get another evil.
But yeah, no, and then you were really upset too about how they kill Randor.
Yeah, He-Man kills Randor by accident. Oops. Like that's the dumbest. That actually did kind of piss me off because I'm like, I get it. He doesn't realize how strong he is, but it also felt like they're kind of trying to.
He wasn't controlling himself either because Evil Lynn was controlling him.
Yeah, but I was just like, did you have to like he gets? But hey, his dad's proud. Like, oh look, my son's strong enough to break rocks on my head. Yay. Because that was the whole thing. Was Randor was an asshole at the beginning to try to toughen him up. And he could be in different media, but it was kind of I don't know. Yeah, I don't like that they had him accidentally kill Randor. I thought that was kind of dumb. I don't like the fact that like literally everybody knows he's He-Man, even the villains know he's He-Man.
Well, they make a joke about that at the end because he keeps like, he gets the signal when he's like, Cringer, come on. And like he's running off to go change. And then they're like, does he not remember? Or does he think we don't remember that he's He-Man? And they're just like, oh, let him do his thing. So they make fun of that too.
Yeah, so they make fun of that too. Now, look, I gotta be honest, at least in the 2002 series, Adam was scrawny. And so it made sense that he didn't look like He-Man, so he couldn't be He-Man. But in the Filmation show, it's literally just He-Man with a pink vest. And how many guys with page boy haircuts and pink vests have green talking tigers? It's like, oh, this is a different, this is a different green talking. One, I'm He-Man, not Adam, because I'm wearing less clothing and I got this tan. And two, my tiger's got armor on it. Not like that other tiger that the prince has, who just is conveniently missing every time I show up. Yeah, so it was like, it's kind of like it was a Clark Kent thing, but like 100 times worse.
Listening to us, you're probably like, this sounds terrible. It actually was not.
It's not. It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun movie.
If you could just understand that they're making fun of it as much as they're, giving you good stuff. Like you said, it should be like 20% less funny. It's still really good. It would be, if it was 20% less funny and they didn't make a couple of the digs that the people are getting upset about, it would have been a slam dunk a whole way around. It would have been like, really, really good. I mean, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's not going to do well because it's such a niche thing. But overall, there was a lot in it that if you're a He-Man fan, you're going to be excited to see. You get the battles you wish that you'd seen in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot more violent than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
But it was good. I liked it. I had fun. I'd watch it again. And knowing that they make fun of it a few times.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. Yeah, it's the biggest problem I have with it is
the humor does itself in.
It's fun, but it's too goofy in places, and there is I get the whole like wink and a nod toward the audience because it is some of the stuff in He-Man is like really ridiculous, but could you try to take it a little more, just try to take it a little more seriously?
I mean, there's like 2 or 3 places that they had just not done it. It would have probably been a lot better movie. Other times the humor works, like the What's Going On, that was funny.
That was funny, yeah.
But there's other times that it's like, yeah, no, yeah, that you shouldn't have done that. That's not going to go well. And that stupid coughing thing was, you had an awesome scene. It was like a make or break pinnacle scene, and then you broke it immediately because you like made them start coughing like idiots.
Well, that's like I was like, all we needed was a fart joke, and Man at Arms is making a joke because he misheard Skeletor, and he's like, butt worms.
Well, the way they said that, the way he said it was,
you're nothing but worms or something like that.
He's like, and I was thinking he said butt worms, and then right when I thought it, he goes, "You call us butt worms?"
Oh God, yeah. So it was. I mean, it was good overall, and that's why I want to be clear. Like people, because if we're reviewing the movie, we're gonna tell you, yeah, the movie is good, but we got these issues with it. The soundtrack was awesome.
Oh, the soundtrack was really good. They did a good job with that.
Brian May did the music, and The Darkness did the theme song, and it like this thing screamed 80s, early 80s fantasy, headbanging, heavy metal. And I was getting a lot of flashbacks to when I was young, and we would watch movies like, Rock and Rule, and we would, play Dungeons and Dragons and like all that stuff. It was all in heavy metal. All that stuff was all kind of like tied into, I guess, kind of the zeitgeist of the time. Right. And, the Queen adjacent soundtrack, and even the graphics at the end credits with the whole like neon light rainbow thing going on was really cool. And
I liked that. I liked when they got him on Battlecat at the end. Battlecat was in the armor, and they played the old He-Man. They played the
classics,
and that one got me. I teared up on that one because I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! That's all we wanted was right there." But why couldn't we have a whole movie like that? Anyway.
Exactly. That is kind of thing too. Like I understand every one of these movies, especially if you're reintroducing a franchise to somebody who's never seen it. You kind of have to do the origin story. But I'm like, I wanted to see proper He-Man. Not doofus He-Man, but proper He-Man on proper Battle Cat for more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't make it a bad movie. It's like
it doesn't make it a bad movie.
But I would think that if this is not going to happen, a second movie and they just focus on him being He-Man and stuff, would do a lot better. But they did tease, the post credits, there's 3. They did tease. They had Orko showed up.
Yes, Orko does a PSA at the end, which I thought was great. But he's not in the movie other than that.
Yeah, but they should have put him in the movie. But he does a PSA at the end. And then we do tease, which we already knew they were going to. They teased She-Ra.
Yeah, it was more than a tease. It was like
she was there. Like it was. You couldn't see her face, but yeah.
Yeah, showed the sword, showed her back, showed her standing in front of the freight zone, which also the comic shop was called the Freight Zone.
The Freight Zone, yeah, I thought that was
kind of funny. But they played the She-Ra music too. They started playing.
I was so excited. That one made me so happy. But then I'm disappointed because this movie's been just so bad. They're never going to make the She-Ra film. And what you say?
Oh no, I was going to say we were talking about this in the car. We almost always get close to having She-Ra, like proper She-Ra back. Now we're not talking the Stevenson Netflix show. We're talking like proper She-Ra. We get there because She-Ra was supposed to come back in the 2000X show, and they're going to introduce the Horde. They teased Hordak. They had a figure, the whole thing. Didn't make it. They were going to supposedly bring She-Ra back in the CGI series. Didn't get there. Revelation didn't happen. If they were going to do more, they were going to get there. Now we got a movie, which, because it's probably going to bomb, we're not going to get She-Ra either. So
probably not. And I mean, because the second movie, I think with him being proper He-Man, and she's already not. She's already going by, because they said Force Captain and she's like, no, it's just, I'm She-Ra. They already have her set up as she's ready to go too. So the next one would just be like, we are into it. We have the origin, boom. But we probably won't ever get it now because this isn't going to do well. And it's always when we get to She-Ra that they shit the bed, and I'm so mad about it. Even though Amazon does have the rights to She-Ra because they were going to do the She-Ra show, so we could have got a She-Ra. And please, let's get a She-Ra.
I don't think we're going to.
I don't want to hear it. La 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 la. We're gonna get a She-Ra, and then they at very very end they have like Evelyn picking up Skeletor's head, and then you hear him cackling, like it goes black and you hear him cackling like he's brought back, because obviously, if they're going to do She-Ra too, they probably had Hordak bring him back and everything. And I'm like, I just want the damn She-Ra movie.
Yeah, well, that's what the thing is. If they did a sequel, I can guarantee you it wouldn't be a He-Man sequel. It would be a She-Ra movie with He-Man.
Probably because they that set it all up. Yeah, it makes they probably would. But I would. Just
but he wouldn't be proper He-Man again. It'd be like you get some He-Man, but mostly it'd be him and She-Ra talking about feelings.
We got He-Man, so it's time for She-Ra. They wouldn't be talking about feelings, even though that song they had, and it was so bad. I don't care if Erica Scheinberg did it. It was still terrible.
Oh my God, they would sing that. Oh God,
the power of love or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. They did a video for that, and it was very creepy because they're supposed to be siblings.
Oh,
they're very very close.
Yeah, very very. But anyway, I just it's good. If you're like
it is good overall. It's
have
good.
Fun,
yeah.
And want to see really good battles, and you want to see your characters that you liked when you're a kid, like you got the battles you imagined in your head, but they're more violent. There you go.
Yeah, if you want to see people get stabbed in the neck, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, that's what our son said. A lot of neck stabbing.
Yeah, if you like Moss Man, I'm very sorry. He's in for about 30 seconds and he gets turned into mulch and he becomes a joke.
One thing that I thought was funny was when they threw the one guy and he ended up on Spike Ore, so he got impaled on Spike Ore. I was like, that is actually, because you never think about what Spike Ore's power, but you never really think about it. It's like, because they don't really impale them on him in the cartoon, but they impaled the guy on him in the movie.
Like I said, the Skeletor's minions, it was just a very weird, because like there's no Whiplash, there's no Clawful. And, Spike Ore was kind of there, but like, yeah, I was like, where's Merman? Like, we don't get Merman.
We don't.
Well, whatever. It was good. It was good. I watched it again. Will it get a sequel? Oh, hell no. I don't think there's any way this one's going to get a sequel. And even if they do a sequel, I don't know if they're going to get Travis Knight back. So they probably take it in a totally different direction. That's like they did Bumblebee, and then they did Rise of the Beast, which was nowhere near as good as Bumblebee. So
we don't want a different direction. But anyway, less humor though.
Less humor. That's really the biggest complaint I have, is a couple of things that I wish they wouldn't have done lore wise, and the humor being overkill.
And I guess what people are complaining about, and I don't think that people are gonna be like, I was on a board and they're already roasting people. Anybody who didn't think it was great, or they said they were disappointed, they're immediately jumping down their throat and being dicks like they always are. Because you're not allowed.
What, in the He-Man fandom?
Oh, because you're not allowed to not like it. You're not allowed to, toxic masculinity is bad as we behave like this. You're not allowed to not like it. And even people are like, I'm not a hater, but I don't like it. You're a hater. How dare you? Did you ever watch the original? Blah, blah, blah. Same typical thing. Look, if you don't like it, I get it. I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to be mean to you. I'm not going to judge you. I understand, because there is enough in it that I can see why people would be very upset about it. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun. But I can remove myself. I'm a fan, but I'm not probably as much of a fan as other people are. So for me, I could remove myself a little more. I think being less of a fan might come into your benefit on this one.
Yeah.
But I liked it a lot. That's me. I get why people might not like it, but I think everybody should give it a chance. It's really pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely
bright colored. It's fun.
It's a fun movie. It really is a fun movie. So, are we gonna wrap this up?
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.